Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Mike.
It's Dan.
Welcome to the Double Chin Show.
Double Chin Show.
This is the Q&A segment.
Yeah. It's
we haven't done this in a while.
Yeah. This is why we do. I mean, this is it's great because like when we first started, we wanted people to send questions in, and then now they're coming in
A lot.
and this is what we want.
This is what we want. We're doing it live.
Yeah. And this
doing it
latest
live.
question, this is a great question.
We should actually do this live.
Yeah, of course, like radio.
Yeah.
But like we can't read an essay. But we should. We should. At some point we should. I mean, you know, radio shows, podcasts, people always do it live.
I want to do this. I want to do something live.
We can do it.
Live with you
Let's
guys.
do it. Let's do it. Guys, thumbs up if you want us to start doing this live. Like you call in, be like, hey,
Yeah.
what's up? But we need a delay because if like some people are obnoxious, you know, we got
a dump button.
dump.
I do want to apologize. We actually filmed a Q&A video before this one that was accidentally erased.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh crap.
So I want to say, if you didn't get your questions answered, that's probably why. Because we try to answer all questions.
Yeah, we do.
So if you don't have your questions, if you wrote a long time ago and your questions are not answered, as long as it's legitimate, because we get some questions that are kind of crazy, then write to us again. And if you're still going through that issue, obviously.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's get to it.
All right. This is a great question. It's from a 20-year-old adopted Korean girl. And so basically, here's the gist. It's a really long email, but here's the message. But here's the gist. She's 20 years old. She was adopted from South Korea as an infant. She was raised by white parents in Michigan. They also have another older sister who's adopted Korean as well, in addition to two biological kids from the parents. Grew up in Michigan in an all-white community. The school, it's kind of like you. You're like the only Asian in the area.
Basically, my neck of the woods.
Basically, but she's always felt kind of this need to first of all, she doesn't connect with any Korean culture, but she's really interested and she wanted to, and her sister as well. So what happens is her sister went back to Korea to teach English and try to attempt to reconnect their native culture. And after not even a week, she said the sister returned and completely never going back there again, and completely detaches herself now from being Korean. Meanwhile, this girl, has said growing up, she's definitely experienced blatant racism like you and me to an extent. And now her identity is more than ever basically up in the air. Like she doesn't identify as American, Asian American, Korean, Korean American. Like she's like, what am I? Who am I? And she still wants to connect to her old culture, so she watches things on TV now and maybe wants to travel there because she also says that in Korea, people look really down upon adoptees coming back. It's almost like shameful or something like that. So she's basically like, how does she deal with this? What does she do? Okay. And I think this is a great question because I think that there's a lot of people out there who have the same issues. And growing up, I've met a lot of mostly South Korean or Chinese girls, usually they're girls who are adopted, and I've seen the whole gamut. I've seen a situation like this, or a situation where they basically just completely tune out the Asian culture, and they're just like, yeah, I'm American. I'm American. I don't speak the language. Yes, I look Asian, but my parents, they're my parents. They're white. So that's who I am. And they completely assimilate to white culture. And honestly, I have no problem with either or. I'm more concerned with kind of like helping people if they're going through these difficult times. What do you think?
Well, I think like we talked about this in the past before. I mean, I get her situation because, you basically, I grew up where you grew up.
Right.
I grew up in that situation where, there was once where I was growing up, I was living in a town that was so small. My family was literally the only Asian family in the town. It was like a town that's 5,000 people, So all around the Midwest, I've been through this. I've been in schools with other Asians, but all the Asians in my schools have already chosen. They were like, we're not really Asian. We're like, we're Americans, whatever.
You kind of choose a side.
Yeah, I even gave the example of a Chinese guy in my middle school making fun of me for being Chinese. I think like people who actually suffer from this identity crisis, there's actually a lot of them, but I feel like they come from people that actually want to know about their original culture.
Absolutely.
It's not from people who are like, you know what, all my friends are white or whatever, none of my friends are Asian, I'm surrounded by non-Asians. That's who I am. And that's kind of how I grew up too.
Right.
Because I was like, you know what, I don't really care because fine, I'm Chinese, but all my, everyone around me is not Asian, and I went to a school. There's like no Asians there. I remember in college I went to a Asian association.
Yep.
In a club in college, and I joined for like a day.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't connect with these people.
Right. And they probably looked at you as not Chinese.
Well, they were actually quite accepting.
Oh, okay.
Because they were like, oh, you're Chinese, so yeah, welcome. But then I was like, well, I don't really, I don't really have a lot of similar interests as you guys because, we don't relate. Because you guys just came from China. You're all like, I don't understand your jokes.
Right.
I'm not fluent, completely comfortable with your language. So I'd rather just go be with my friends.
Right.
So I made my choice too.
Exactly, yeah.
I think there are those like her who cares a lot about where she comes from because I think it's also different when you're adopted. Because when you're adopted, you almost didn't get the choice of saying, okay, my parents taught me a lot growing up about where I came from.
Right.
She didn't really have that. So she was basically brought here, although she looks different. She was treated as not an Asian by her family. Right. Probably by people around her.
Well, people around her probably treated her as an Asian.
I'm sorry. As an Asian.
Right. But her family
didn't treat her.
They were like, you're our daughter.
So that's kind of like a paradox.
Oh yeah, for sure. And props to her parents for, accepting her, like, you're our daughter. We don't care what you look like, as they should.
Right.
But when she goes to school, it's a whole different story.
Right. And then on top of that, like for me, I was able to be like, okay, I understand where the racism, the stereotypes are coming from.
Correct.
Because I understood Chinese culture.
Right.
But she grew up in an environment where that wasn't explained to her. Like she doesn't understand much about Korean culture.
No. I mean, look, you got Chinese parents.
Right.
So regardless of certain things.
So I understand how Chinese people act.
Yes.
I understand how they perceive things.
Right.
She doesn't.
Understand
and then
the
when she
language.
goes back to Korea to try to fit in there, you're an outcast.
Right.
Because your language probably is not there.
Well, the biggest issue, she says, is that they know she's adopted.
Right.
And they look down upon
Right.
that. And so they shun her. Oh, and to the extent where her sister seemed like she had a traumatizing experience.
God, yeah.
So what I have to say about that, because it sounds like for her, she's dealing with more so issues of, like for us, we had identity crisis. Like I just didn't know how to, I can fit in all the time, but some people look for ways to fit in. But for me, I had other issues. For her, it's like, for example, like people would call her a wannabe. People will give her labels, and if she goes to Korea, people will shun her. So it seems like she faces a lot of this opposition. And for me, what I have to say about that is shame on those people. And we should not care. Really, don't care about what people think of you, because you can't control it. You're an individual. There is no label for her. She is an adopted Korean person in America. Okay, but beyond that, trying to figure out a label for yourself is really difficult, and you're gonna run into all these things that people label you. And I'm basically like, forget about anything people say to you. Literally, if you want to discover more about your culture, do it. And if you go to Korea and people don't accept that, well, here's the thing. That's not sure, that is a part of Korean culture right now. That's probably a part of Chinese culture or Japanese culture to some extent. Maybe they all look down upon adopted children going back to find their roots. You know what? If that's the case, first of all, to me, that's not the essence of that culture. That's not the essence, okay? That might be something that they feel, but that's not a good thing. People should be accepting of people regardless of their backgrounds. Right. That's number one. So tune that out. Be like, you know what? You don't want to accept me? Bye. I'm gonna go find people in Korea who are like myself, who are discovering their own roots and are happy about it.
Right. Also, I think this might be her issue might be magnified because of the environment she lives in. Because she lives in Michigan, and look, there's not that many Asians in Michigan.
Right.
Similar if I was in that situation, I lived in my old town of little Hickville, Illinois. Right. There's nobody over there that kind of gets me. I do feel like she's kind of feeling like there's nobody that understands her. Right. Maybe she's not able to connect with people who are from similar situations. But I think in this day and age of the internet and social media, if you want to connect with other people from similar backgrounds, or even connect with people of whatever cultures, look. That's what I love about the internet. The internet is great in this respect, right? The internet a lot of times suck.
Right.
But in this respect, it's really great because whoever you are, whoever you feel like you are, there are other people like you.
Yep, absolutely.
And you can always connect and reach out and talk about this with other people.
Right.
I think also, as Asian Americans like ourselves, I don't want to speak for all Asians, but I feel like people like us who grew up here, we're more, I guess, understanding about like these kind of situations.
Oh, definitely.
Because and there's a lot of us.
Yeah, and also she's only 20. I mean, if you look at it, like for example, I was growing up. I met you when I was not even 20, 19. So you're like my first Asian American friend that I was like, well, second, but like somebody that, isn't that sad? You're actually my second Asian American friend, and the first one I had basically is entirely like I can't connect with. Do you know what I'm saying? You're the first one I connected with. I met you when I was 19. So like there's other people out there, but they might not be a lot. But like don't be worried because you might meet them at some point.
I think there's a lot.
but I'm just saying like if you don't meet them right away,
right,
they're out there.
Yeah, the Midwest are full of people that ask.
So this is really interesting.
Asking the question of, hey, so are you Chinese?
Right.
You Korean? Like they love asking that stuff, and then sometimes that hits a sore spot with you, right? Because you're like, oh, I am, but well, I guess I am.
Okay, so let's use you as an example. So like now, if people ask you in New York, oh, Mike, what are you? What do you say?
I'm Chinese.
You don't say Chinese American.
I don't say Chinese American.
You don't say American. You say
Chinese.
I'm Chinese.
Right.
Okay, so you're in your early 30s. So back in your 20s, what would you have said?
Chinese.
You've never said I'm Chinese American?
No.
Ever?
Never.
Okay, and you don't have a problem with that?
I don't have a problem with that.
All right, that's a really good example. That was a really good example. So I'm kind of weird. Like when I was younger, I wanted to be American. Like I wanted to be American.
Yeah.
So when I was younger, like in high school, people would be like, what are you? I'd be like, when I was younger, I'd be like, I'm American. Because I'm like, I want to be American. And then like older, I was like, I'm Chinese American. So I kind of like accepted my Chinese part. Now when people ask me, I'm like, I'm Chinese. Because I don't care anymore. You was like, maybe, were you a stickler? Like, were you like, I am Chinese, I'm going to stick to that?
Because I never cared much about, because I feel like adding the American at the end, it's kind of like, I'm Chinese, but I'm one of you.
No, but a lot of people do that, but you don't care.
I never cared about that. So I'm like, I'm Chinese.
Because I was concerned about fitting into your spec. I wanted to make sure you knew I was American just like you, so I won't get racism. As I'm older now, I'm like, I really don't care what you think. I'm Chinese. Look at me. I'm Chinese. Like, I can't read Chinese, but I know a lot more about traditional Chinese culture than even other Chinese people.
Right.
You and I both. But by all accounts, you and I are Chinese American if people wanted to label it.
Yeah.
All right? But dude, I just don't care now.
Right.
And I'm so much better off. But it took me a while to get there.
But I think you grew up in Boston, then you came to New York.
Right.
This girl is stabbed in the middle of Michigan.
It's more like you.
I understand completely where you're coming from. And you know what? Whatever culture, whatever identity you want to pick for yourself, or you want to associate yourself with, don't give up on that.
Yeah.
Just because you feel like somebody else had a bad experience where people are shunning you. Because look, it's like the Midwest, where I don't want to say any more bad things about the Midwest in terms of its racist culture, which is prevalent over there.
Right.
But that is just a small group of people compared to the big scheme of things of acceptance. People who are more accepting everywhere else.
Absolutely.
Where a lot of other places, not everywhere else, but a lot of other places, and there are people who are accepting of whoever you are, whoever you're trying to be. But thank you for your question.
Definitely,
hopefully that helped a little bit.
Hopefully that also helped a lot of other people as well. It's a pretty important question.
Next one is from this girl. This is a relationship question.
Okay.
This is a typical relationship question we get. Basically, she's dating her boyfriend, and her boyfriend's parents are okay with them together, and then her parents are saying, if you marry him, you're gonna get divorced and stuff like that.
Wait, but what is she? Like, is it a racial question?
Well, she didn't say what where from her name. She doesn't sound Asian. But it just could be a fake name. This is your choice. Yeah. Whether you feel like this guy is worth it or not. If you feel like he's worth it, he's the one, he's the person you want to be with, the person you want to marry, then nothing should stand in your way.
Right.
If you're not sure of that, than maybe going through a big battle with your whole family
Right.
over someone you're not sure of.
Right.
Obviously.
Yeah, and for me, like I feel very strongly about the way parents raise their kids, especially Asian parents. But in this case, let's say it's all around. Like to me, parents should not make their kid do something for their benefit. They always weigh your consequences. It's like, look, if you need to live with your parents and they won't accept them, then it's kind of for your own sanity. But if you're like, you know what, mom and dad, like this person will treat me so good, because eventually your parents won't be there. Your husband. Okay, eventually your parents will pass. So who's in your life? It's your husband or your wife. That's your family.
Well, you can't always say that
I-
because you want to.
I guess no. I know that's a very broad way. But
Family, a lot of times,
and especially if they're young, I don't want to say that. Look, I don't want to say choose your mate over your parents, but I'm
I
speaking
understand
very
what you're
generally.
saying.
Yeah.
Like if you're set on this person,
Right.
significant other, you're set. This is
Right.
you feel like this person is worth it.
Right.
Then make any sacrifice
Right.
you need to be with that person.
But also,
That's
that
all.
question is so broad because, like, I feel like sometimes when people are 18 or 20 or 25, they think that person is for them. And my advice would be, hey, listen, you're really young, okay? Like, you don't know anything. Like, I don't know anything. I'm 31. You think I know everything? No. But I'm at least more mature now about my relationships than I was when I was 20.
Yeah.
So I'm not willing to sacrifice my relationship with my parents, back then. You know what I mean? Like when I feel like I haven't
Well,
found
unlike you, I do know everything.
Well, yeah.
All right, so let's move on from that. So the next question is about meditation.
Okay.
This person is saying they're very new at meditation, trying to learn yoga, and they get anxiety attacks. So you guys mentioned that you're Buddhist, and asking if there's any tricks to keep you in a meditative state. There's no tricks, really.
No, there's no tricks. A lot of times, like I have a lot of times, my friends, they know that, I do meditation, and they ask me like if they can learn, and I'm like, sure. Or they learn by themselves, and then they come back and they're like, this isn't really working. I'm like, well, because you're missing the point of it. Most of them think that they do it in order to remove, it's like a magical pill. It's like, it's not a pill. Like if you're stressed and you try to meditate, you're not gonna. So how do you?
Why? Like in a lot of there are cultivation practices. Why like sometimes monks in temples they're able to sit there and they're able to cultivate and whatever. It's because even for them in their heads,
it's really hard.
There's like a battle going on because well, from our beliefs of Buddhism, like basically you got to let go of things.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely.
So if you let go of things, there's
less
stuff in your head.
Right.
There's all this stuff about greed, about whatever jealousy, whatever the heck
Everything.
it is. There's less of it.
Like I'll give you a really easy example, right? Like for most part, people who don't understand what meditation really is, or like you said, cultivation, they see an ad for yoga or qigong or whatever, and they're like, hey, I'm gonna take it because I just my relationship sucks, my boss infuriates me, blah blah. So they go do it, and maybe for the first couple times they're like, because they're learning something new, they're like, oh, this feels good, and then like later on it doesn't work anymore because when they go, all this crap still pops up in their head. So it completely defeats the purpose. So to me, I would say target the stuff in your head. The meditation is an add-on. It will help you get into the mode. But once you're in that mode, you should really start to truly let those things go.
It's a lifestyle change.
Absolutely.
Because it's about how you live your life.
Right.
It's about how you treat certain situations.
I'm not going to judge people, but I find it hard to, let's say, like, if I'm on drugs, if I'm drinking, if I'm partying every single night, and then I think, hey, I'll go do yoga because it's going to keep my mental stability up. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't think that would work. Maybe it works for some people, but I'm like, you got to kind of work towards not that lifestyle, not the self-abusive lifestyle.
Yeah, it's also about like just everyday situations too. I mean, you feel good about getting jealous over something. Do you feel good about like when I don't know, like you have a frenemy that's like that got a big promotion. You feel like, oh my god, I'm so jealous.
All that stuff.
Let it go.
All that
like
stuff. Yeah.
The song, let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go.
But it's harder said. What's
harder
the word?
said than done.
Right, because everybody wants to let it go.
Yep.
That's why they turn to meditation. But with this person, it's obviously a little different because they have a medical condition.
Yeah.
And I've seen people have really bad anxiety attacks. It is not fun. It's not fun, and it could be life-threatening. So in that case, I can't. I'm not a medical doctor, but I would say My advice is also try to treat those medical things mentally, because I think everything starts mentally. Like what is the root of those? Like is it stem from fear? Is it stem from something? And then try to attack it in that way. And I think meditation can help.
Yeah.
Anyways.
All right, so that's it for this video. Guys, again, if you want to ask us questions, either message us on YouTube or message us on our Facebook page, youtube.com/DoubleChenShow. Don't comment, obviously, because then everyone can see your question. Also, we don't really get to see it sometimes because there's so many comments, we can't get to them all.
And also try to keep it concise. If you need to write bullet points, even better. Like put in the most relevant, because we want to be able to read these as we ask them, but if you read an essay, we have to spend more time to kind of summarize it ourselves. Yeah. So.
All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. See you later.
Later.